to have those kingdom conversations.
Thank you and welcome to Kingdom Conversations with Dr. Shirley and Leandra, where each week, through the grace of God, we hope to inspire women to thrive in their purpose-driven lives through lessons learned and a whole lot of wisdom.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Kingdom Conversations with Dr. Shirley
and Leandra Williams. And we are here today again with you with Kingdom Conversations. Shirley and I are so happy to be here, as always, being able to give back and be together and make some more memories. And we wanted to also, welcome you back. We hope that you had a chance to tune into our introduction to get to know a little bit about what we're doing here. Who we are, why we started, and what you have to look forward to. We also have a new topic today that we really wanted to dive into and dig a little bit deeper. I think Shirley and I have talked about how things start with foundation, and I think it's important to be able to self-reflect, be able to look at your history, and be able to have an understanding kind of where you're going as well. And I think that includes everything in your life, down to, what you have been through, what circumstances you have been through, what traumas you have been through, and just where you are momentarily right here in the present. It's like ingredients, right? You need all of the ingredients to make this beautiful cake. Well, you are the cake, and we are here to make sure that you're all of the dessert. So we wanted to be able to, relate to you and empathize by speaking on some things that we have that we know have brought us to where we are today, who we are today, and where we see ourselves going futuristically, and to be able to shed some light on that. And maybe it will touch you in some ways. That way you can kind of relate to it as well. And we would love for everybody's tuning in as far as your feedback, your participation. We look to have guest speakers also as we get a little bit deeper into our podcast and getting to know everybody a little bit more. But I just wanted to make sure that we can be here together to have this deep conversation. Are you ready, Shirley, for talking all this good stuff?
Listen, I'm already on the couch, okay? Let me just put up my feet. 77 years ago, my mommy met my daddy.
Get her the pillows.
Oh my gosh.
Grab your tea.
Listen, we're going to need more than 30 minutes. Oh my gosh. That T word, that trauma word alone. When I reflect back, right? Honest to God, I didn't even know I was going through any type of trauma, right? I think if you haven't yet guessed, I kind of have this like really outgoing personality. I'm like such an extrovert. Endorphins just be like chilling and like shooting out of me. So like I really do look at the glass half full, making lemonade out of lemons. So like even whatever happens to me, I never just kind of look at it as trauma. Like I've just kind of been like, okay, that happened and let's keep it moving. So, my life, just a little bit about my history. I did grow up with a single mom, and I had an older brother who was 10 years older than me. He actually passed away in 2015. So he was my only brother. And, growing up with him with such a huge like age gap, right? Like I'm like in diapers while he's like trying to be cool and everything. And then by the time I get to my coolness, like he's out of the house.
He's gone.
Right. So, but like one thing that I really want to share, when I was young, because my mom was a single parent, and she was a single parent because we were all born in Nigeria, Africa, and she came here on a visiting visa. And, there's a lottery system in Nigeria in order to obtain visitation rights to another country. Not everyone gets access to this. Thousands of people apply. It's only by the grace of God that you obtain that exception. And my mom actually didn't want to go, right? Like she's one of 8. Whole family's in Nigeria. Whole family's still in Nigeria. Okay. And she was living like a really great life there, but she told me that like her grandfather who passed came to her in a dream 3 times, and on the 3rd time he was like, won't you just make something of your life and go? So she went to
Wow.
the lottery office, and she got acceptance, and everyone was like, how did you, like, who did you know? And really and truly it was by the grace of God, because again, she was living her best life, didn't know what another country was going to look like, leaving everything
Yeah.
she has known, everything she has established, and taking a chance on this foreign country with 2 kids in tow. And my father couldn't get a visiting visa, right? But like, because her children are like under a certain age, right? I was like 9 months when I
Right.
came to this country. We were able to go with her, and because it's a visiting visa, you keep going back and forth until I became school age and I was established here permanently, and both my brother and I are on like permanent resident cards. And when I was young, I remember, looking back, I know it was the Holy Spirit, but like, back then I didn't know what it was. Something just told me, don't give your mother any heartache, right? Like, don't trouble her, be a good girl. So that's what I was. I was a good girl. Like, just like a goody little two shoe, didn't get into trouble, loved school. Oh my gosh. Um, but there is something about not being raised by your father. I don't know what that looks like. I'm even still trying to work on my relationship with God and seeing him as my father. But I don't know
Yeah.
what it's like to be loved by
Mm.
like a father figure in this life. And I kind of always wanted that. Like, I'm such a tomboy at heart that like I felt if I grew up with my dad, like I definitely would have been like his princess or something. But my mom and I like are
I
absolute
can
best
see
friends.
that.
Yeah. She was and still is a great mom. She is like my role model, my rock, my sister, my BFF. I love my mom. We were just always so close, and she is like Miss Independent, working 2 jobs, but she didn't really have that Miss Independent attitude. She did what she had to do to raise her 2 children. But like, she's actually, she's soft, and I'm aggressive. I don't know where I came from. But it still hurts me, unfortunately, to this day, to have not really like known of my father as an adult. Like, yes, as we were traveling back and forth, I know he got to see me and he got to see me walk and everything, but I just don't remember. I was too young. Um, so I think, I call it like the typical no daddy syndrome, right? You try to look for love in like the wrong areas, and you're liking guys that
Yep.
you really shouldn't be liking, who are really just kind of giving you the time of day, because you're just like looking for that validation and whatnot or whatever. So I went through those traumatic experiences, period. Guys taking advantage of me. I was like, sexually harassed in the workplace, like just ay ay ay. But what has happened, what because you have the making lemonade out of lemons mentality, you have a tendency not to heal from those things. You're just like, oh, sweep it under the rug. Let's keep it moving.
That's
Like,
right.
I'm not going to dwell on it, right? I've got things to do. That's my past. That had nothing to do with me. Like, I didn't do it, right? Like, y'all did something to me, so that's your issue. But like, you really have to take the time to heal. I'm not going to dive deeper into that in this episode. We'll talk about that later, but it is so, so important not to sweep things under the rug. Confront things. If you
Huge.
have to confront someone, confront someone. If you have to say out loud, this sucks, why did this happen to me? Then do so. Sometimes you just got to say things out loud, hear it, heal from it, and find ways to move forward so that doesn't affect you into your adult life. Kind of found that out a little bit too late, but I'm getting
Huge.
there. I'm getting there. So, yeah. And
I love that.
yeah, and I think like just also in addition, so like that was family, right? And then when I went to school, also being an immigrant, my mother put me in like Catholic schools, which were like predominantly white schools back in like the 80s and 90s, right? And like here I come with all these African features and don't nobody look like me, and I don't even know what the world is supposed to look like, right? Like I'm a first grader. Like what do I know? I'm just trying to, like play on the jungle gym and take a nap, right? I don't know anything. But right, like those people, those students sure told me, right, like you don't belong, or it was very obvious I didn't look like them. So the insecurities, Lord have mercy, boy did they develop. They followed me throughout life. I really had to like fake it till I make it. So like I faked confidence, but boy was I insecure. Boy did I not think I was pretty at all. Didn't think I was smart at all. But my mom like whispered to me like, never let them see you cry. I was like, word, bet. I'm not gonna let them see me cry. So what did I do? I was watching like Martin and Living Single at the time, and I would write my disses. So that when I came to school, in the schoolyard, I'd be like, your mama's so fat. Like, I came with all the disses. But like, right, I go home and cry. But like, I was like, hi, you ain't gonna see me cry. That was.
So you had the quickness. You had the quickness.
That is
you
how
had the comebacks. You had the quickness, and you had that stamina to pretty much get through those moments.
Yes.
What you thought was, so you were in a survival mode in some ways, in your own survival mode.
I mean, when you put it like that, Dr. Leandra, are we healing now?
That's what I'm hearing. That's what I'm hearing. I'm just like, we're saying in one breath, don't sweep it under the rug, but essentially in the beginning, that's what you did. You pretty much did what you had to do to get through your day, to make sure you were Shirley stand tall. I've got a backbone. Mm-hmm. And you lacked that self-confidence, but you did not portray the lack of self-confidence at all.
Correct. And as you say that, like, I think about like, how I really kind of had to like put up a wall, or that was like my defense mechanism. And so like even building friendships have been hard. That's why like you are such a surprise, right? I was like, I don't let anybody in, because like I've had those fake friends. I've had those friends that have turned their backs on me. So like I just have like a very small circle. And I don't like to be hurt. I don't have time for it. I don't want to get exposed. I don't want to be vulnerable. Telling you.
I totally agree. And I hear you and empathize with you all with everything you just said.
Yeah.
But, I think we try to protect ourselves from those moments where like, absolutely. If we don't even allow ourselves in that situation, in that space, if we don't even let anybody enter or make ourselves vulnerable, then we don't have to be hurt. We don't need to be disappointed. Yep. We don't have expectations, right? We just leave everybody where they are.
Yes. Zero expectations. Zero. And we don't want you all to be like that. No. So like, that's why we're telling our story. Learn from us, heal a little bit early. In fact, honestly, you don't even want to go through what I went through. It took a car accident where I nearly died, and I nearly died again a month later when I had an ectopic pregnancy and I had to have like emergency surgery. When you face death back to back, that humbles you real quick. You don't have time for the insecurity. At this point, you're just like, I'm grateful to be alive, right? Like, I am so happy. Thank you, God, for sparing me. I do not have time to play woe is me. let's feel bad for Shirley. Like, I need to live my best life and really like take advantage. Let's start living my purpose, God, because you spared me. So what you want me to do? And that's why I wear these bright colors. Honest to God, actually, side note, my favorite color used to be black. You would have never thought black was my favorite color. It was neutral. It went with everything. I didn't have to think about it. Awesome. But after facing death twice, I just had like a love for life. I was so grateful, and I wanted my outside to reflect how happy I was inside to be alive. So I started wearing bright colors, patterns, rhinestones, like anything shiny.
I love that.
Express how happy, how grateful I am to be alive. So I'm telling you again, you do not want to face life and death experiences for you to start appreciating what you have, to let go of those insecurities. Like, don't wait until that time. That's not even healthy. Right. You know, like, let's start working on ourselves, healing now, being happy with what we got now, because listen, you don't want life to humble you. Okay. Woo! And put you in that place. All right. That part.
When life humbles you, let me tell you something. You might have been near death, but if life humbles you, you feel real alive for some reason. You're like, you look around real quick and you're like, hold up. I do not feel robotic. I do not feel like this is a regular day. Something is shifting in my heart right now. Something is literally shaking me to my core, and it will wake you up like it's nobody's business. Those are the best experiences. I know nobody wants to go through those experiences of being humbled or humility or anything like that. But I will tell you what, when life has humbled me, those moments those moments are monumental to me. That is like, I almost, as much as I want to bury it into the ground and never talk about them, those are so monumental. And I hold them to such a standard, because those were moments that I was at my lowest points, but then I came out to my highest point. And that's pretty much what you just said right now. You were just like, I was here, and then I had this tragedy happen, and it woke me up, and my perspective put me here. And now I feel like a whole different person. And now I feel like I want to reflect what I feel inside. And that's not black inside to a point where it's like morbid. It's like bright and full of life. And it's love. It's love. It's pure love.
Yeah.
I love that you just shared all of that. I think you just gave us a whole teaspoonful of medicine right there. That was good.
Thank you. Your turn, girl. Let's unpack.
I'm glad that we are timing ourselves, because I know that you have so much more to share, right? And I know moving forward, like, I would have a lot to share. So I'm just compartmentalizing where I want to start, what I want to talk about, because I feel like there's so much to it. But I will start with the basics. And, self-reflection is huge for me. And I've learned to self-reflect a lot, especially in the last, I want to say, give or take 3 or 4 years now. And I am 35 years old. So to self-reflect in your 30s and not necessarily not say you're not self-reflecting, but for some reason when you're in your teens, or you're, in your younger years, or you're in your 20s, your mind is not about self-reflection in a lot of ways. It's more so just kind of like survival mode. And for many of us, I feel like, because we're still healing and we don't know how to heal. We don't know we're supposed to heal. We don't know that is our job. That's actually our job individually. Okay. That's not your mama's job, your daddy's job. That is your job. You have to heal you. You have to know where to start. But you have to self-reflect in order to do that. So let's rewind back to my childhood years. And like Shirley has said in the past, we are so opposite. It's kind of funny, because when she's saying something, I'm like, if she's saying something, for most things, you could just flip-flop that, and that's me. So Shirley wanted to be a goody two-shoe and great at school and wonderful in academics. And you can just go ahead and completely reverse that for me. That was me. I don't say that pridefully, but I'm okay. I own my stuff. I'm okay. I'm okay to own where I'm at in my life right now, because when you know better, you do better, and that's where I'm at. So I can reflect on that. My mom and my dad were in my life in my young years. And still to this day, my mom, my dad, right now, we are all very close. But growing up, I have strong memories of always having my grandparents in my life, my grandmothers, especially. And I had my mom, I had my dad. We had a very fun life, so to speak. My mom and my dad did divorce probably when I was about, I want to say maybe 10 or so, or 11 years old. But leading up to that, it was just, there were obviously marital issues. And there was a lot to learn from that, because my mom ended up, she was a single mom as well, like Shirley's mom, just different circumstances. But I watched my mom in that survival mode. I watched my mom have to work hard. I watched my mom struggle and with a lot of stress. My dad at the time was dealing with his own demons, and we'll talk about that another time. But he was very much so in a lot of ways absent. He was there. I knew who my dad was. I know Shirley did not know who her dad was. So I guess that is where we can kind of relate in other ways to other people. It's like, do you not know your dad at all? Or do you know who your dad is, but he's still not necessarily present during those times in those years? So you kind of deal with a different, I guess, like rejection in some ways. Not rejection, I don't know if that's the word, but it's definitely a void. There's a void there.
Yeah.
So I definitely can empathize with that. And so growing up in my teenage years, I will say I always wanted a family. I always wanted to be a wife or have a boyfriend or have children. And that was always, it started very young with me. I grew up in church, but for some reason or another, that's just not where my heart was when I was younger. So as much as I was at church every Sunday, mentally, spiritually, and I was only there physically, I was not there in other ways that I should have really been there. So that really interfered with a lot of my lashing out. I was very much so, in a lot of ways, a troubled teen. I gave my mom a run for her money, which I feel bad for now, and I try to make up for it in every single way that I can. I love you, Mom.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do.
And I respect my mother on a whole different level now too, because of reflecting back. And I'm telling you, if my kids did what I was doing, let me tell you what. We're not going to say it on the
you gotta
screen,
pass.
but you know what? We're going to leave that right there. I don't know why I did half the stuff that I did. I think that there was a lot of anger, which I didn't really know was anger. I think there was a lot of hurt that I didn't know was hurt. So I was constantly looking to have a family and not have that broken home, but my mom raised us to be very strong-willed, very independent. It was we have a strong family lineage of women in my family. Yeah. We are some strong women. I mean,
beautiful.
It just goes generation after generation where we're we are strong, we are independent, we don't need anybody, we can do this on our own. And as much as I love to rah-rah that to the loudest, to the top of the mountain, that has actually hindered me a lot in my years of now trying to, follow suit and being a little bit more submissive. But in other ways, that it hinders me. So I grew up being, with my mom, with my cousins and my aunts, and always being boy crazy. And I found myself pregnant very young. First time I was ever pregnant, I was 15 years old. So that was something that I was so ready for. I was no, I'm ready. I'm going to be a mom. I can do this. I'm independent. I don't need anybody. I'll do it on my own. And my mom was like, what is wrong with you? Like, know that it's not what you're having or not what you're doing. And I lost my child, obviously, for obvious reasons. My body is not ready for that, right? God knew that. I did not know that. Looking in hindsight now, I'm not grateful, but I'm grateful for everything that's happened in my life. I try to take it with a grain of salt. But I got into a lot of trouble. And like I said, I was boy crazy. By the time I was a senior in high school, I had my first child, which is Elijah. That's my oldest. He is my son. And I pretty much grew up with my son. Okay. So when I had Elijah, I was 17 and my son is 17 now. And I'm in my 30s. Yeah. So having my son young, I went into survival mode. A lot of my friends went off to college. They lived the Shirley life. I went off to work. I worked multiple jobs sometimes at a time. I was not afraid to work. I was always about, picking up extra shifts, getting my, I had my own car. I had my own apartment. So I was, again, in survival mode, in independent mode. And I wound up being a single mom very few months after having Elijah. So I was also a single mom. And I think that taught me a lot because in a lot of ways, I wasn't ready to be a mom, and I actually did need a lot of help. I had a lot of people, my sisters, my mom, my son's godmother at the time. They really stepped in and helped me in ways that I didn't realize I needed help. My house at the time was an open revolving door. Everybody came to my house. The parties were at my house. It was just not necessarily the best situation. Mm-hmm. Now that I look back, I'm like, what were you thinking? What Survival. Were you? God truly saved my butt in a lot of ways, because now I look back and I'm like, I don't know why a lot of that happened. Mm-hmm. But like we are talking about now, it's about self-reflection and knowing where these issues and problems, there's a root there that's causing you to react in certain ways and causing you to approach life in a certain way that needs to be addressed. So that way you can live a better life. It's
when you said approach life, right? How we approach life.
Yeah, we're not approaching it correctly. Yeah. So I met he's my husband, but my husband has been in my life since Elijah was 6 months old. And he really stepped in and stepped up as his dad. And that was incredible to me. My husband was only 16, turning 17 at the time. So again, we were all kids.
Wow. Elijah's
we were kids
age
having
now.
kids.
Wow.
Elijah, yeah, pretty much Elijah's age now, when he decided to take on the responsibility of my child and everything that I was going through. I was still dealing with a lot of, like I said, childhood trauma, that, there's a lot of things that have happened in between, and that, we can talk about later on in some other times, but there's definitely, I think, talking about having my child and my son at a young age and starting off so young, it's almost like you're giving yourself, not to say it was a disadvantage, not having a child was a disadvantage. It was my perception and my perspective on what I even expected from myself. And I remember even in high school, they wanted to push me to a different school. And they said, why don't you go to this school and you'll be able to, not walk around as much. And they were trying to make it easier for me. And I remember being so set on, I'm not going to be a statistic. We grew up in a city that there was a lot of crime. And I know that there's been a lot that goes on in our city. We have a very small city, which I didn't know was small until I actually moved out of it. But there's a lot of culture in our city as well. So there is definitely something to, highlight there. But for some reason, my mind goes to the negative parts of it and what was feeling like was my everyday. I think weighed heavily on just my reaction and my approach to my life and what my expectations were. And I remember just being so set on this is not going to, I'm not going to always, stay on welfare, or I don't want to always be on food stamps, or I don't want to drop out of school. And I remember doing it a lot for my mom, because my mom had a hard time when, she was in high school. She almost didn't graduate, and not because academically, just because of circumstances. And I remember being like, if she finished school with everything she was going through, I'm going to finish school.
Ooh,
I'm not going
powerful.
to let this stop me.
Yeah.
And I showed up, girl, to that school until I could not fit in the desk. I was like, you're not there. I don't need to be put in no special school. I don't need special accommodations. This is where I'm at. I accept it. This is what I'm doing. I'm finishing school. Mm-hmm. I had Elijah at the end of May, and I graduated in June with my class like I was supposed to. And I had a couple-week-old baby in the stands. And it was just, when you look at life through your eyes and you see how everybody else is living and doing their things, it all makes sense. And it's just, now I'm here. And I have 3 children. I'm happily married. We've been together for, obviously, Elijah will be 18. So almost 17 years we've been together. And I'm completely grateful for all of it. It is rain and shine, ladies. It is rain and shine. We do not know what a good day is unless you have a bad day.
Absolutely.
And I think getting through 100%. All of the things that we face individually, because we all have our own story. I think owning our story and owning who we are and reflecting on where we have gone wrong and addressing that, going to my mom and saying, hey, I want to thank you for everything that you've done. You never gave up on me. You never just let me roam the streets. I've literally been hunted down by my mama. Okay. And I'm grateful for that. Yeah. So I think we have to be grateful for those moments, and knowing that our trauma and things that have hurt us is not that's not who we are. It's just a part of who we are, but that is not the end of our story. We have so much to live for and so much to give back. Absolutely. And there's purpose.
Yeah. It doesn't define us. It doesn't dictate what our future will be. And I love how you said, like, your mom hunted you. If she could do that, imagine how much God loves us, right?
Oh, that part.
Right? And so, like, as we come to a close, like, I just want to emphasize, it does not matter what you went through, what you may be ashamed of in the past or today. God loves you unconditionally.
So much.
Unconditionally. All right. If you didn't grow up with your parents, or you didn't have a parent that loved you, and it was an auntie or a teacher or uncle or cousin, whomever, if they can love you that much and fight for you, imagine how much God loves you. And I think that's the perfect way to end there. We have done some healing just in this program alone. Okay. So I just want to thank you all for joining us today. Miss Lily, thank you so much for sharing your story. I hope it impacted you all out there. I hope this allows you to just go home, reflect, and join us next time. Please follow us on our pages: TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. Join us again next time for Kingdom Conversations. Thank you so much, and stay blessed.
Yes. Bye, everybody. Thank you for tuning in.